This is the first round game of the match between Magnus and Arjun. Arjun has just played Rook C6 and Magnus plays Queen E7, asking for an exchange, and of course, they exchange. If you see the position, there is a nice pass pawn for white, but black also has a pass pawn that is connected. White's pawns are doubled. So black has a slight advantage. Magnus is slightly better here. Arjun puts a rook behind the pawn and defends the b2 pawn. Rook f6, offering another exchange. King g3. Arjun brings a king in. Rook d7. And Magnus is ready to roll his pawn down. Takes, and king f2, getting ready to stop the pawn. If you push now, you will simply lose the pawn probably. You will just lose the pawn. Okay, Magnus should be able to get one of these pawns in that case, but yeah. Magnus gets his king in. Rook a3, trying to make the rook more active by coming to a4 or a5 or a6. Rook a5, king e3, and Magnus tiptoes towards the pawn. Is the pawn gone? Arjun says no. If you move the king and then you take the pawn, I'll take on e5. So what can Magnus do in this position in order to not lose this pawn when he takes this pawn? Is there a way to protect this pawn? Yes, there is. Magnus is in no hurry. He can just calmly play king d6 and then play f6 and then again come towards the pawn. In which case, there will be no more free pawn for Arjun. That's exactly what he does. Rook check, king moves, rook goes back, and now f6. The king is ready to come back, takes, and g5, closing out all the entry squares and stopping the pawn from going forward. Now king comes in, king d6. Magnus is winning the pawn. He plays rook b3, does Arjun. b4 is actually the better option because if you take and take, wait, if you take, then white can just play rook a5 and there is enough play with the pawn in order to hold a draw here. But then he plays rook b3, blocking his b pawn, which is a mistake. Now takes rook f3. He is getting ready to attack, take on f6, but of course king c7 and b4. So this lost a crucial tempo. Attacking the f pawn by going to b3 lost Arjun a crucial tempo with the b pawn. Rook check, king b5. Rook d6, and again the pawn is ready to roll. Rook a3. King b7, not allowing the rook to come in. King moves, rook check, king d5, king b6, rook check, king takes. So Arjun decided to go into a pawn endgame. Is this pawn endgame a draw? Does white have enough compensation for the one pawn? His pawn is protected all the way till here. All these squares are protected. And then once the pawn reaches there, all white has to do is move the king, one extra move, and then promotion happens. And this move comes with tempo. So that's basically 5 moves to promote. For example, let's say black makes a move, push, king moves, push, push. The king went up. That means the king was not required. And promotion and promotion. Instead of the king comes down, the next move is also coming with tempo. The b6 move also comes with tempo. So that's what happened. Magnus played king a7, king c7. He repeated, and then he figured out the right plan. Of course, he is great at endgames, and this pawn endgame slash queen endgame was correctly played by Magnus. King a5. He didn't want to go back because then one more tempo for white pawn. Pawn push, and now we have a queen endgame. Magnus promoted first, but Arjun has also just promoted. Now Magnus has the move, but there is not much Magnus can do here, right? King a5. So Magnus allowed Arjun to promote at the same time, and then he played king a4. A waiting move. Like he's not even giving a check. He just gets the king out of there. So that move is actually a mistake because then white gets a chance to give checks and make a draw by repetition. What Magnus should have done was just get the queen in, queen d3, or any queen move. For example, queen a4 check, queen c2 check. Just activate the queen with checks and then figure out how to win. But then yeah, he played king a4 and now queen b5, and here queen d5 was played. This is the queen endgame that they had reached. And this was a moment where Arjun blundered. He played queen d5. He should have played queen c5 check, and that was a draw by repetition. But after queen d5, he is asking Magnus to exchange, but of course Magnus takes the g4 pawn. And now the problem is there is no draw by repetition. The king will get towards this side, and there will be no more checks. And Magnus is 2 points up. The king, there's no check on d1. The queen covers it. Queen e1 check, king gets closer. So this is how Magnus went on to win this game, the first game of the match, and then he went on to win the match. This was a moment where Arjun had to play either queen a5 or queen c5. That would have been a draw. But then, because then there will be checks and the king cannot hide. For example, queen c5, let's say king b3. And then queen d5 comes, yeah? Queen d5 comes. King c2, and then you can just give against. You can't take. Opponent game is lost. You can just play queen c5 check, king b2, queen b4 check. The king tries to escape. Let's say queen c4 check, king d2, queen c5 check. So that the king doesn't escape, I believe. Queen check. Oh, queen d6 check, king e2. And then you can take the pawn. Yeah, if the king tries to escape that way, you can take the pawn. If the king comes to c2, can we take the pawn? It's a bit risky because then black will also take this pawn. But if the king tries to go to e2, then you can take the pawn. If he goes to e1, then you can still take, I suppose. And if queen takes, what's the difference? You can take this pawn. So Arjun would get both the pawns, and it's going to be an equal position. So that is why queen c5 was the right option. But Arjun went queen d5. It's of course very complicated. It's very difficult to make the right move here. But he went queen d5, and now Magnus got the option to take on g4. Queen check, king moves, queen check, king moves, queen check. The king makes his way towards the side where he can hide behind the pawn or the queen. Queen check, king moves, queen takes. But then, of course, Magnus takes on e4. King moves, queen check, king moves, queen f4, queen moves. Was there a check possible? It doesn't do much, yeah? For example, if queen e3 check, what would black do? Oh, then black will play queen e5, no? Queen d4, sorry. Black will look queen d4, and that just a win for black. That's why I didn't give the check. He went queen a6, push, king e6, push, queen a2, and after king e1, Arjun resigned because now the king will just hide and the pawn will promote. So Magnus again showcases his endgame skills and won a game in a queen endgame. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like the video and please subscribe to my channel for more such content.